all our panelists and our audience on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, on our partner forums on this occasion of Women's Day. And my heartfelt thanks to our partner forum, the Policy Times, who is hosting this event, Mr. Akram and Mr. Rakesh Taurani, who is right now not present on this event, but will join us later in some time. And today in this event, we speak about the journey of a lady in modern times, not only her professional journey, but also the number of parallel journeys which continue in her life. Whether it is the journey at home, the biological journey of being a woman through the different 4 to 5 stages of life, or the way society sees her, or the socioeconomic scenario she belongs to, or the socioeconomic scenario she's transferred to or she has to go to, and of course some of our very beautiful instincts in herself, that is the maternal instinct. I always say, and I've always seen and I've always observed, that the maternal instinct of a lady is something, it's not, doesn't belong especially to a mother, a person who is a lady who is a mother or a mother of a child or children, but it belongs to everybody, from a 9-year-old girl to a 30-year-old lady, mother of 2 children, or a 50-year-old person, or a 60 or even an 80-year-old person, which is always showing care, concern, empathy first, and being a listener to the core. The art of listening is something which comes from ladies, not from men ever. And my heartfelt thanks to all our panelists who have joined in at a very short notice. I would like to share a story to our audience on a very comic note. And the disclaimer is that it did not mean to demean or insult any scripture, but out of deep respect and regard to the current scenarios of the ladies in my life, in my family. They face the hard learnings at very high expenses I've seen through their journeys, and of some of the panelists who are there with us. In the Indian, there's the Indian scripture, the Durga Saptashati, which speaks of Goddess Durga's advent into a variety of scenarios. And these scenarios, each of these scenarios are catastrophic and out of hand, very difficult to handle, and very tough, very challenging, lot of obstacles all the way. And it's always at a point when the mother goddess comes in, when everybody has given up, all right, and possibly the entire pantheon of male gods, all right, who have all the superpowers, who are the ruler, who are the owner of the universe, creator, destroyer, etc., everything, all right. So there's a scenario in chapter 4 and chapter 11. It's very easily translatable and very easily learnable, to the general public, because it's always there in Hindi. And the scenario is like Goddess Durga, in certain format in chapter 4, chapter 11, she has just sorted out everything, killed the demons, granted wishes, etc., everything, cleared the stuff, cleared the deck, sorted everything, set the world in order, there's peace. And then after all that, she comes running, huffing and puffing, and she's like, okay, guys, do you need anything else? That same maternal instinct kicking in, despite the sweat on her brow, the blood on her hands and whatnot, and the catastrophe. And she's the first thing that kicks in is about them. Do you need anything else? And these guys, the reply is like, moral of the story is, long story cutting short, is like, no, we're kind of done over here. It's good, thanks. But she says, do you want any wish after that? Okay, they don't offer a glass of water. They don't offer some fruits. They don't offer an umbrella. They don't say that here's the chair. They just say, they come to the wish. They said that whenever we are in trouble, please come. Please come in whatever format you have to come, but please come sort us out. And it goes, that entire scenario continues. The higher the level of catastrophe that happens, the more catastrophic version or the more elated version of the goddess or the mother or the lady comes in. Okay. And she comes and sorts everything out. And in every format, she does the stuff, etc. There's that maternal instinct. The most terrifying form of the mother goddess, even when she comes down, she says, guys, you need anything? You need some help? She says, no, we need you again, please come. But they don't offer her this thing. Yes, in the beginning, they do equip her with all the weapons and etc., because that's their necessity. all right, but they don't offer a glass of water and a flowers, etc. and all. Today, there is something very interesting. Women are intrinsically creative, all right. It's something you cannot take away from them anywhere. And all women are professionals. Let me tell you that. It doesn't mean that you have an organizational banner, that you have to be a housewife is a hardcore professional, a very specialized professional with a lot of specialization into multitasking and management and communications as well. All right. So, yet there are scenarios where women have to master the task of communicating better in the current scenarios, align their thoughts and creativity, be subdued, or choose specific career paths or roadmaps which will be comfortable to them, or avoid the rest. So as a result, what happens, the things which get devoid of women, they get devoid of those core values and they get devoid of those creativity. And there is always conflict and stress. Mr. Akram, my co-panelist and chair speaker, he says that, you know, wherever there has been a women leader in a country, there has been lesser corruption and there has been lesser stress and lesser conflict. And that's true because that's a core value. It's to the muscle memory level, to the soul. So, and women also, despite being creative, people take their creativity and they are also asked to be subservient, all right? This is something which eventually has to change and it has to be cascaded down. If not in the next 4 to 5 generations, let's assume the next 10 to 20 generations, we can be at least be instrumental rather than just leaving it on the seminar. I will not speak much more. I will share the opportunity to our keynote speaker, Ms. Madhumita Manna, who is our director, healthcare in our chamber. And she has a very diverse and a very long career into pharma, media, over 26 years. Over to you, Madhumita ji. Please go ahead and share your views.
You're on mute, ma'am. You're on mute.
Sumit, even you are on mute, so we can't hear you.
Yeah, Madhumita ji is now.
Yeah. Sorry for this. So once again, a very good evening to all. And it is really my pride and privilege to be sharing the stage with such powerful brigade of women like Shalini Goel, Shana, Ahmed, Soumya Chaudhary, Dr. Smriti, and Amrita Serian. I'd also like to thank the men who I also call as allies and have given this platform to voice the views of celebrating the diversity in modern times. My views are that throughout history, I think women has traditionally been regarded as a little inferior to men in both power and status. And that is, this is what all societies believed in at one point in time. And obviously, I think this was more because of the biological difference between women and men. And that biological difference was used to justify forcing a certain stereotypical roles in society, which was limited and shaping their attitude and behavior. And therefore, this is very entrenched in the society, given that it is years of subservience that the women has really suffered. And if we really divide the society and view it as modern one and an old-fashioned one, we might fool ourselves and make ourselves feel better at the same time. But the roles of women have come in various forms as they have occupied more visible space and varied roles in modern society. The varied roles have certainly brought in pressure also because women has to really juggle between the modern society, its expectation. But also what happens is there is the old-fashioned elders, the generation much before us, and individuals who coexist. And therefore, in the modern spectrum, the women has to manage home and her expectations outside both. And not only does this expectation of being modern and also being traditional at the same time is expected at home, but it is also expected in the corporate world also, which also has the mix of, at the moment, mix of the old and the younger generation. Whilst it is important to acknowledge their advances, the bigger picture is that the old-fashioned society at large still lives around, and the transformation that is happening is at the snail speed. Why do I say this? Because I began my career sometime in 1996, and since then, there has been a lot of talk, though I think the entire thing of women diversity caught fire sometime around 2010, 2011 as being more, pushed by the MNCs to have more diversity around them and kind of very snuggled into the KRAs of the top management, and that is why it was getting pushed, and most of it was done because that was need of the hour. But largely, the transformation is still very slow. The changing roles of women has enabled and empowered many, and I truly believe that you need to combine such positive and progressive energies for all genders together to ensure that changing role of women is not limited to modern society also. Why do I say that? Because societies don't only exist in the cities where we are talking about diversity. They also are existing across the pop strata. And when we go to the lower pop strata, which is our rural villages and all, where also we have a great working population. Mind you, that while there are farmers who are men, there are women who are also working hand in hand with them. Very recently, I was doing a Rotary project on agri, and I remember that there were these women who was toiling in the field from morning to evening. They're not considered. I mean, they had to still go back, and they have to still be a little subservient to their husbands. I could see that. And they have to go back and also display their roles as mothers and wives and mother-in-laws. So I think this is something which also needs to percolate down. The empowerment, I think, for women that we are driving, though it is moving at a snail speed, is powerful. It's beyond measure and beautifully beyond description. The role of women is always changing. It has been so. Although I've always thought of roles of women in a very positive way, regardless of whether she is a homemaker or a working woman. Many a times when I've been interviewed, who has really influenced my transformation as a professional, I think it was my mother who was a homemaker, but she's highly talented in many of the cultural field, and she's highly educated, but she chose to be at home and raise 3 kids so beautifully and educate them. So as a homemaker also, I think she definitely has a role, and I do respect that. I appreciate that, all the women that have inspired in my life, whether it is be my mother, mother-in-law, including, I think, my daughter, I'll always look up to them and I'll be thankful to them. And of course, in this journey, I also believe that, while we, being pro-women does not mean that you're anti-men. So there are some male allies who I believe also has contributed beautifully to my life. Coming to the corporate world, very recently, and the data may be a little dated, I was looking at some of the work done by Sheryl Sandberg, which I think her work in linen is by far one of the most in-depth work in diversity. She reflected very clearly that there is this tyranny of low expectations. People feel that, oh, she's a woman, she may or may not be able to perform, and which is still there. And I'm quoting from something which I saw, I think, which she has written in 2018 or 2019. And one of the other reality is that women in the top also remain very lonely, and there is significantly underrepresented in the senior management. But surprisingly, if you see, despite all the perceptions of progress, men think that women are well represented. Even if there is 1 in 10 executives in a boardroom, suddenly we feel that, oh, they're represented well because we were really not present for a very long time there. If the perception itself is positively skewed towards lower number, the results will definitely be underattained. So how do we challenge this blind spot and buy into power of diversity and advance women in the workplace? And yes, every time, and I did lead diversity in a couple of my organization, apart from my role as a sales and marketing head. And I have always propagated the thought that we don't need the seat just like that. We need the seat if it is, we have the merit to be in that seat. So gender cannot precede meritocracy. That's also very important. And yes, when I say gender diversity is just not about sitting on the table there. It's about being smart, dynamic, business values, and also we are very, very outcome based. Gender bias, I think the theme for the Women's Day this time is about breaking the bias. But gender bias again, I worked for a very long time with Pfizer for almost 11 years. And Pfizer's diversity team was quite dynamic. And we were always fighting this battle of being unbiased and unconscious bias. So, gender bias can be very conscious because that is how the society is, or very unconscious. And sometimes the mental associations formed in our brain are so deep. So in spite of best of efforts, there is a natural bias and it doesn't kind of, the patterns are very difficult to break. But I think there are incredible work and there are incredible women who have gone beyond their limits breaking this bias. So over the years, women I've seen, women who have worked with me or otherwise that I've met in the social realm or my friends, they have made incredible strides in the world of work, breaking gender bias. Today, today we hold positions of leaderships, though the percentage is much lower. We hold positions of leaderships, develop support groups, and continue to fight and close the pay gap and the behavioral gap, of course. That is something which has happened after a lot of fight and a lot of things. Some like this morning, I was talking to somebody and they said, this is one day that we are kind of celebrating the Women Day, but this one day has brought in a lot of focus on this entire women issue, which, and therefore I think the day celebrating the day has done the job. However, if we really want to create a better workplace for our next generation, we have to push the cart hard enough and take it out from the clutches of gender parity. The KRAs that are sitting there, they have to be brought out of the clutches of that, because gender diversity has to come very naturally to the senior management. It should not be a part of their KRAs and therefore they're doing a diplomatic job of it or a lip service. And it is therefore time to take action. A couple of things that I have learned during my corporate tenure of so many years is that as a women leader, it is extremely important that you kind of educate yourself and mentor yourself. When I say about educate and mentor, it has been a very in-depth study that I have done of my own patterns also, or my own thinking, or the observations that I have made in my surroundings, and what continues to influence me as a lady to do that job. I'll give you an example. Long back when I was in Kodak and I think I was an executive, there's this little incident happened where the head of commercial, who was a female, had to go and attend, and this is really funny, the PTA meeting, and I think she was rushing off and everybody was saying, "Ye to matlab closing hai and she is rushing off just now. This is what is the problem with women." But after a few days, when the finance head was a male, was going out, and for the same reasons, they said, "Oh, he's a sensitive father." It left quite a deep imprint in me, because once you're starting off your career, all these things are like, you don't think about these things, you're working hard. But these kind of observations made me feel, yes, there is some kind of a bias. But that time, I think in 1996, all of this has not caught so much of a fire. So I took it like that. There was another incident where I think, we all were sitting, and all the management trainees were sitting. There were 4, and I think I was the only girl there. And I was, the Firenze had come. This was a multinational that I was to work for. And suddenly I'm told, why don't you go and see whether the lunch is done or not? Thankfully, I had a senior leader who was a woman. And she said, why do you have to do that? Just tell somebody else to do that. Just because, your VP is asking you to do that, you're not supposed to do that. You are a professional when you are here. So, these are some of the little observations that has really carved my diversity thought. And I keep on learning a lot. and keep on thinking, deeply thinking that how these biases can actually be maneuvered. And I think my sensitivity, the kind of action that I took in many companies led me to be the diversity head also. And I have tried and made a little bit of material changes there. The other thing is, as leader and change makers, let's open the door. Women in leadership have a responsibility to pave the way for those coming in behind them. The scarcity culture that creates a lot of fear for many, and with it, an attitude of gatekeeping for upcoming opportunities should be broken. For example, a very special subordinate of mine has just delivered the baby, and she's from ISP, and she's absolutely a go-getter. And I have guided her that you can do you can grow in your career along with your kids. You should not give up. You just have to have a great support system at home. You need to have great tenacity and a great mental frame of mind to kind of maneuver there, because she's absolutely a potential client. So I think a lot of mentoring and encouragement there to the next generation will also keep up and break the diversity patterns. I think people from all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of women have very unique experiences. And one of the unique experience, and why I say that we have to open the door, is that one of the unique experiences I had, that when there was an internal IJP, internal job floated for a business head role, we, all of us understood that this business head role possibly needed a little more experience, but I've never given up. So for this business head role, I did apply. And then we had an internal meeting. Since I had worked in this company for a very long time, the internal candidates were all called. And then there was discussed. There was this one-by-one discussions which was going on. And this is a very funny incident. The head of HR was also a woman. And suddenly she says, this role requires sales experience. Since you ladies don't have it, we're not considering you for the internal IGP. So I was very surprised. Can you imagine? There is this very stereotypical imagery in the mind of this person that ladki hogi to isne sales kabhi kiya nahi hoga. And I said, ma'am, can you please go through my CV? I've done exactly 4 to 5 years of hardcore FMCG sales, which means that, you have in a previous company, which is an FMCG company, FMCG companies, when you do trade sales, it's a very tedious thing. You are roaming around in the sun, and especially in the lower roles, you are possibly going to a Lucknow at 48 degree and a Bhubaneswar at 52 degree. You've done all of that, and there's somebody coming and saying that you didn't do a sales role. I think that is where we need to open up. We need to speak out our mind. And people who are scared, I see a lot of women, even in the newer generation, who are good and vocal, also keep quiet because good jobs are very scarce. We need to mentor them to speak up their mind, of course, not being rude, but with a lot of facts and figures. And I have always done it several times during my career. The other thing that I thought was that when you are vocal, you are known to be aggressive and not assertive, whereas sometimes the men is known to be smart. So that is something I think sometimes you have to fight. The other thing that I've encouraged, especially with my subordinate colleagues and all, is that, take up much of a space, take up roles to break the bias. Don't say that this role is not for me and that role is not for me, and I'm at this stage of the career and I cannot take up this role. Push your cart a little bit more. Because everybody is for some reason observing you as you're going up the career. I'll give you a very funny incident again. So I joined this company, and the company has a role where you have to know the doctor detailing, which is the prescription, and you also have to know trade, which is how do you go talk to a retailer, talk to the distributor, etc. And which also means that you have to do merchandise at the retail. There is recruitment for on the field happening, and every time the district manager is asking, well, we like this lady, but will she go and post her? The next thing that I did was, though I was quite senior by that time, I think I was a senior product manager. I take about 6 market visits and make sure that I climb up in the stool to put up the posters and banners to demonstrate that, the poster and banners are not gender dependent and the women can do something like that. I think those are the kind of things which is action, and leading by examples is very important to really take the next generation or make their life a little bit more smoother, where people are not asking such stupid questions. And I've had a lot of incidences like that where, I had to lead and I had to give an example. In a company in FMCG, when I was transferred to sales, the distributors used to be in the red light area of Bombay in Fort. And constantly the national sales manager would say, "Ha, country head ne to bhej diya, but will she be able to do that?" But a red light area is a red light area for those women. I mean, they're not, those women are no less, I'm not demeaning them. But I have this job with a distributor. How does it make a difference if the distributor is there or not? And I really transformed the entire business in that area from driving it. I think I drove the sales to some 200% working on those distributors. So there are times when you have to give examples, you have to prove yourself. There has been, I think in my second pregnancy, there was the launch going on. I had to come back almost 21 days before I finished my pregnancy leave. I had to come back, so I had to come back. So and that is what I say, that you have to push the cart a little bit more. One of the other things that I did as a diversity leader in these companies is to also be into the HR policies, where to ask the right type of questions. You can't ask a lady in just the beginning few minutes of the interview that, "Are you going to get married? What are your family plans? Does your family this thing?" She goes on a back foot. That needed to be corrected. For positions, I made sure that there was equal representation of resume from both the genders. A very gender-friendly policies were created. So these are things we need to push as a leader. And therefore, I think once we do that, we can definitely maneuver the bias very, very easily. But it has to be done consolidatedly with a lot of tenacity with everybody. I think I've taken up a lot of time. We are living in times of awareness. We continue to progress to a more equitable job, but we are still not there. It has to still gain a lot of momentum. Equity for women is only possible when we create a world that every woman can voice their views and they are fearless. I think the gender bias at work also has taken time, because women themselves were not very fearless. They were always, because we are so much taught to be a little subservient, to be a little docile, that even at work we start behaving like this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's very important.
So
that's about it. I think I'll end with saying a saying where Rosalind Carter, who was the former First Lady of US, said, "A leader takes people where they want to go. A leader takes people where, but a great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to go." And I think women leaders have that power. So with that, I want to end here. And those are my views about leadership, really.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your views. And that was very enlightening. And I'm very glad and I'm very grateful that you've shared your experiences so passionately and so openly and so in such a brave fashion. No matter how tough they might have been, or what whatever the scenarios were, because a lot of people who are watching this seminar on the social media platforms, who are going to see it live on Facebook Live and etc. and everything, people will be viewing this and somebody might just change their mind towards a profession or a certain scenario in their life for better. I will not take much more time, and I will like to share the opportunity to speak with Dr. Shalini Goel Bhalla, who is a speaker. And over to you, madam.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today and to speak on this opportunity on this day of Women's Day with all these lovely women present here. With this, I would like to wish everyone a very happy Women's Day. It's a day which is celebrated on 8th March, but I think we don't need a specific day to be celebrated for the womanhood. We celebrate it every day. every day when we get up, I'm sure all of us start playing different roles, be it the role of a mother, a daughter, a wife, a colleague, and uh, a very hard work ends up our day again with different multiple roles that we are playing. And we have seen how uh, history from Cleopatra days in Greece to Jacinda Ardern in the pandemic days have proven their skills. And as we all know that the New Zealand Prime Minister was one of the best prime ministers to handle the pandemic, which is like we know what we have seen all the countries and how she very well curated and kind of managed through this pandemic the entire nation is nothing less than uh, a commendable job. Uh, I have a very limited time. I was listening to Madhumita ji, who's actually talked about her entire journey right through the beginning of her career to till date. I will keep my speech very short to very few observations that I have on women and our changing roles. Uh, One, I understand we all are daughters, and today I believe you all would agree with me that daughters today are playing no less role than a son. We are equally handling our parents, we are managing our families, and I think there is no question about daughters handling the families. So we have proven ourselves uh, as daughters. When it comes to mothers, we do a beautiful role, which has always been there, being a homemaker, which is very less appreciated, but very highly uh, skill and manager, a kind of a managerial role that we have been playing right through. We have proven ourselves as earning members. We are doing as much as our male counterparts, despite unequal wages, despite not being in the boardrooms the way we should be, uh, not being treated equal at times, which even I face in my different meetings. I mean, I do see that if there are three male counterparts and I am the fourth one on the panel, the discussions are more inclined towards the male counterparts, which is a very common phenomena. Despite that, we have, I think, proven ourselves very well. Uh, then as an earning member in the family, we are very well kind of placed with our male counterparts on being earners. So I don't think we have to prove ourselves anymore. And why do we have to kind of define a woman or prove uh, ourselves to our male counterparts? I don't think that we need to do that. A lot of times people say, how do we define a lady? Why do we need a definition? Do men need a definition? No, I don't think we need that either. We don't need any kind of uh, respect. We don't need any kind of appreciation. We just need kind of acknowledgement of our work like it's done for our male counterparts. And that is exactly what we expect. Very well point that was made by Madhumita ji is uh, despite everything, I think being gender cannot be the reason for being equal. It should be by qualification and by the merits of our work, which is very, very important. Today, the theme of this Women's Day is breaking the bias. So for that, I have one thing to say, and that is, I think we women play a very important role in breaking the bias. The discussion around women equality, gender equality has been there for a very long time. But we as mothers, have uh, we are trying to bring daughter and son on an equal platform by saying that girls and boys are equal. But have we taught our men the same qualities or the same skills that we are teaching our daughters? Uh, a lot of time we see that even in the well-educated families where we teach our daughters to manage the household or be a part of the household work in whatever little way, are we bringing in men at par with that? And the day we start doing that, I think we will start breaking the bias. And that's really, really important. Once we kind of, like everyone says that, Akram was also talking about if you teach a mother, you teach the entire country. So the onus lies on us. We need to teach our sons so that they are more responsible and more concerned about the gender equality. And that is totally, totally on us. So that while we talk about the modern spectrum, we also talk about the traditional values, and we do not really kind of worry that why men or why our son is doing this job, which is meant to be done by a female that way. While we talk about this is the last thing that I have to contribute to this discussion. While we talk about feminism doesn't really mean we all kind of talk about it as respecting women and appreciating the work. But one thing that I've noticed in the recent phenomena is demeaning men. And I don't think feminism means demeaning men. While we appreciate womanhood, I think we should also appreciate the men who are behind us, who have played an important role. Our fathers, our mothers, everyone has been equally responsible. I cannot say that it was my mother or my father. They both have played an important role in shaping me. And I think after my marriage, my husband has played a very important role in helping me build up my career. Today, my son gives me equal support. And that's what I mean by feminism. I want my role to be equal, not more, and I don't want to demean their role. With this, I would like to end my discussion here. Thank you, everyone, for listening to me very patiently. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Balla. That was very kind of you to summarize so many thoughts and feelings and a very detailed journey of a rich experience, a rich career experience, a rich personal experience journey through of your life in a very nutshell to our audience. And apologies for the time constraint, but we will seek you again on this forum again and again on similar topics, on similar thoughts. And if you can join in for some more notes at the end of the seminar or anything, if you can hop in to share some more thoughts or for the group discussion, that would be really kind of you. Thank you so much. I would now like to present the next speaking opportunity to Mrs. Shahana Ahmed, who is a prolific writer and who is into the tourism industry, who is representing the Women's Forum in tourism industry. Over to you, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. Thank you so much for inviting me. Very grateful to Indian Chamber of Commerce, Slovakia, and also the Policy Times. I had a really great time listening to Ms. Madhumita Manna and Ms. Shalini Goyal Bhalla both. I would like to wish a very happy Women's Day to all watching, because I think that this day belongs to all, and I haven't really prepared a speech for today, but whether it is my work as a creative writer or my work with different organizations, I'll come to that later, I have noticed that it's all about shining a spotlight on remarkable women, whether it is my work as the national president of the Rural Tourism Council of WICI, Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, whether the work that I'm doing with RBTC, it's Rising Beyond the Ceiling. It's an initiative to highlight the achievements of Indian Muslim women globally. And whether it is my work as a lead jury with She Inspires Awards 2022, I'm leading the category for Agent of Change, or my work with G100 Club, it's all about creating a network of women leaders. And it's so fulfilling. Every day I'm learning from all the women that I work with. So it's wonderful. Not just that, I am a mother to a 10-year-old. I'm an unschooling mother. So that's something that people find very interesting, because even before the pandemic hit, 2 years ago, we decided, my husband and I both decided to take her out of school. So she's not registered with any school at all. And when I tell people that I'm an unschooling mother, they think that, oh, of course, you're teaching your daughter at home. It's homeschooling. So no, it is not even homeschooling. It's unschooling, as in she's completely in charge of her own education. She has the agency to decide what she wants to do with her day. So I have given her the freedom to do that. And, it's a long story. I am an army daughter. So my father was in the infantry. Because of his postings, I have studied in 11 schools officially and 13 schools otherwise. And it's quite ironical that my own daughter has been taken out of school. I think I have gone to enough schools for her as well. So the whole idea behind this is, I feel sometimes that the conditioning that we grew up with, it wasn't, I think, intentional on our parents' parts, but somehow girls growing up in the 80s and 90s, they grew up with a lot of sense of shame or guilt. Subconsciously, subliminally, it was there. I don't want my daughter to inherit that. So I have told her, even when she was like 4 years old, I told her that there are only three rules for your life. It's that you have to, you don't harm yourself, you don't harm anyone else, and you are free to imagine. You can do anything you want. So I don't want to, sometimes aspiring on behalf of our children also, we put a lot of our own limitations on them. So, I mean, it's very experimental in the eyes of other people, but this is a chance that my husband and I have taken. And when I speak of my husband, I think he's an extremely, I have been extremely fortunate to have men in my life, whether it's my brother, my brothers-in-law, or my husband, like Ms. Goyal Bhalla was saying, that we need to teach our sons the life skills, how to manage household chores, etc. I think the men in my household are better equipped in the kitchen than even I am, even though I have done hotel management and I have learned cooking for 3 years, but I think my husband is a better cook. Anyway, so, this is where Break the Bias comes in. As a writer, my first short story was called Zeenat Aman is Not a Soldier. It was based in the 70s, and it was about an army officer who writes an essay that women should be inducted into the army, and how he's ridiculed for, his very progressive thought, or people just think that he's crazy. But that did happen. 20 years later, it became a reality, and now women in the army are even commanding units. So the change has to, it cannot be thrust on society. It has to be a gradual process. And just this morning, somebody from my council was, discussing this in our WhatsApp group, that why do we need a special day for celebrating women? Why not every day? And that just got me thinking, and I said that, maybe it's our sensibility that we think that we don't need a special day, but sometimes we need these markers, these special occasions to create awareness. So it's an amazing thing that we have a special day for women. We also, if I'm not wrong, we also have, tomorrow is International Women's Day for Muslim women globally. I'm not very sure of that. There are different days which have come up, and I really support the idea of that, because all my work now, as I've said, is about women, empowering women, and I truly believe that we rise by lifting others. So even my book, Combat Skirts, it is about giving agency to the daughters of our families. It's a coming of age story, and where the career path for a daughter is decided by the parents. And the whole book is an exploration of why are we not given the choices to shape our own lives, which will shape our own lives. So not just that, there's another short story I've written, which is about a woman finding love very late in her life. So Sumit, this may sound very trivial, but even the way I have styled my hair is sometimes a topic of discussion. Like, you're just 42, why do you have gray hair? So I think it's the small things in life which really, which may not be a big deal for you personally, but they do have an impact on how people perceive others. And every woman can be an example, and also help in breaking stereotypes. I have a lot to say, but that's all for today. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your experience in life in a very with a very differential take on things, differential view on things. Very though it has been very macroscopic, but you've also given us a deep insight about the value-based systems which help us drive or transform lives or align our own lives or align the lives of others, and how a lady can do it way better than anybody else because she is the source of all creation. And yes, now I would like to present the next opportunity to speak to Ms. Amrita Salian, who is a corporate legal person and has got years of experience with managing the legal end of venture capital funds, followed by Dr. Smriti Sharma, who is from Tata Trusts. She looks after the infant and childcare division, mostly into CSR and special initiatives. Over to you, Ms. Amrita Salian. Please present your views and your journey.
Thanks, Sumnit. It was wonderful sort of listening to the experiences of others who just spoke. And a lot of what I had to say actually has, has already been spoken about. So I'll keep it very crisp and succinct in that sense. I'll speak a little bit about my background because I think that really shaped me as a person and that helped me pursue what I wanted to do in life. I come from coastal Mangalore. Coastal Mangalore has a very unique culture in the sense that it's a very matriarchal system that we follow. At least that's the thing that's been passed on from generation. It's a different question whether it's been practiced, but the kind of society and upbringing, or rather that I was exposed to, was one that was based on high respect for women. A lot of women in the family and also in coastal Mangalore hold very important positions in their families, and also they are their primary bread earners at times. So it does help you, as a very young person, just growing up in that kind of environment sort of helps you sort of imbibe the right concepts, the right principles in that sense of principles that are that don't make you feel like you're inferior to based on your gender or inherent biases that a lot of other people may have sort of faced. It was this upbringing, and my parents also have been very sort of open-minded in that sense. They've raised 3 daughters, including myself. All 3 of us were given the chance to decide what we wanted to do with our lives, what kind of careers we wanted, and all 3 of us have chosen very different paths. For me, I was inherently drawn to the law because of a little bit of early exposure in my teenage years with some activities that I did for some lawyers, etc. And a lot of people may think the law is theory, but it's actually, I thought of it as mathematics. It follows a logic, and if you're able to catch the concept, you can do really well. So for me, it was it's something that I really love. It's an integral part of who I am, and I can't imagine my life. There would be a huge void if I didn't do what I didn't contribute to the profession enough. And also, it's very, very I have to bring up the fact that the legal profession, at one point in the 1900s, early 1900s, globally as well as in India, there were questions about whether women can actually can be legal practitioners. Till about early 1920s, even in India, a woman is not considered a person within the definition of Legal Practitioners Act, which means that basically you are disbarred from practicing based on your gender, right? And they're classic examples of case laws where high courts at that time have debated, because this was the British era, of course, and there were similar movements happening all around UK and the other European countries. But in that backdrop, there have been instances of women who have, sort of approached courts and told them that I've passed the bar exam and allow me to be a legal practitioner. And then the courts have for some time held that, no, it's not possible, right? And then from there to, it really required a bill and an act to be passed to legitimately recognize women as capable of, or as eligible to be legal practitioners. So this profession itself has that history. So there's, as a result of which, even if you take it from that history to today, the statistics and numbers will show that there's very few women. There may be a lot who have studied the law. There are very few women who actually are practicing the law, be it litigation. Classic examples are of the number of women judges that you see in Supreme Courts or High Court or whichever court, right? the number of advocates practicing, even in the corporate side, right? And I don't have the latest statistics and numbers, but I was going through it just before this session, and there was a very dated statistic and number from 2013 that Harvard Law had published, and they said that in India it's only about 5% of the women who are actually legal practitioners. And if you look at the number, I mean, 5% is this is 2013, of course, and there's I mean, I grew up in that. You know, I graduated in 2006, so I've seen the profession from 2006 to 2013, and then from 2013 to now. Of course, there's been an increase in the number of women, but I wanted to highlight that you know, that's where the profession is. There are first very few women, and then fewer in leadership positions. So for somebody like myself, I've worked in a law firm for almost 15 years. Half of my career has been as a partner, so in a leadership role. I was promoted very early as a partner. Very often, I found myself in a room full of men. That became like the norm generally. So yeah, I mean, those have been my experiences, and that has been. I mean, I really hope that that scenario improves. I think Women's Day is also partly to recognize sort of the valiant efforts of women who fought to be treated as equals, to be treated as not secondary citizens, to be treated as people who have the right to vote. So I can only hope that people like all of us contribute or somewhere give confidence to people that women can also be part of sort of leadership roles. One, and my quick thoughts on that are just threefold. I think there are both conscious and subconscious or unconscious biases that exist in the society today. Sometimes the place where you work, there's a conscious bias. Sometimes there is something that's unconscious. It's just coming from, the society the way it is, including on, when they interview you. Somebody also spoke about it when you're interviewed. There are questions about, because especially in a career like the law, where you need investment, you need to invest a lot of time, right? I mean, it's a profession where hard work is greatly appreciated. So the questions about whether on your intent, first of all, whether you intend to continue, whether there's longevity, whether you're actually serious about it, or is this just something that you will abandon after some time? So there are those inherent prejudices against or biases against people against women generally. There are also things about where extremely patronizing statements sometimes that you get to listen to. And there are questions or judgments about on your ability to basically function, right? And on your ability to basically, I think there's a lot more scrutiny when there's a woman in the leadership position. So my only thoughts on this are one, I think it's important for in my entire life as such. My parents had at very early stage sort of impressed upon me the importance of economic independence, financial independence. I think helping that, sort of pursuing that and making that a goal personally has helped me shape my own life in a sense, shape my own career in some sense. For me to be in the driver's seat and decide what is good for myself and what I don't want to do. In fact, I'm in control of my life because I have the financial independence. So I think that's one thing that I'd stress on. I think that's very important. It's important for young girls and generally, girls growing up and women to. It definitely helps because I've seen people who have had the benefit of the same education that I have, but who are in a slightly different place because they don't have the economic freedom or the financial freedom. I think it gives you a different level of confidence. That's one thing that I'll highlight. The second thing is, it's sad and unfortunate, but sometimes it's very important to stand for yourself. Because if you don't do it for yourself, you cannot expect somebody else to do it for you. It first starts with you. Then you can have an expectation that somebody else needs to support you. But and when you take a stand for yourself, you'll very often find that you don't need anybody's support. I mean, really, you can speak up your mind. You can speak up against prejudices at workplaces, at families, at whatever levels. It's difficult, but when you take the first step, I think you start getting the confidence, and you become more confident, therefore, as a person. And that small little step is, I think, a very important thing. A lot of others also on the panel emphasized on the fact of being vocal. But I'd put it this way: I mean, if you want to change in your life, you have to make active efforts to bring about that change. You need to stand up for yourself before you expect anybody else to sort of stand up for yourself, stand up for you. I think, and the third one is, I also want to emphasize on women standing up for other women generally and empowering other women. I think it can be generally a great thing. It's always a good thing to see, when you go into a meeting or regular meeting, when you're usually not expecting to see another woman in the meeting room. It's always great to have that camaraderie, to have that equation with somebody else like yourself. And I think even at workplaces and also at maybe in our personal lives, sometimes just a matter of having somebody's back, or for somebody to know that they have like a valid support in you, I think that makes a lot of gives people a lot of encouragement. So I can't emphasize the point that because everybody's sailing in almost a similar boat. The professions may be different, but I think the points that you'll hear everybody say on the panel are more or less somewhat similar. Experiences are somewhat similar. So I think it really helps to have that kind of camaraderie between women, and for women to sort of empower other women. And of course, finally, I think my final thoughts are nothing is going to change overnight. We've seen things, all of this has started in the early 1900s, and we are now in 2022. We've seen changes, we've seen people evolve, we've seen the roles of women evolve, we've seen even men some men sort of supporting, endorsing these things. And none of this would have been possible without the support of also broad-minded men generally. So I think, of course, there's a lot more need for everybody to consciously think about being a little more inclusive towards women. And I think also broadly having a sort of a more progressive mindset. I think that's going to help not just society in general, but it's also going to help people at workplaces to retain talented women, and who can contribute a lot to the profession or the workplace that they are at. So I genuinely hope that there'll be more and more contributions from women. There'll be more the society in general will evolve towards making towards a more equal society and a less biased society. That's my only hope. And I think all of us all of us, irrespective of our gender, have a commitment towards making sure that something like that happens, and we pass on a better sort of a society to the next generation. Thanks. I had nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Amrita ji. That was a really crisp perspective from your professional journey and the scenarios you have faced. I find a lot of resonance, maybe between the speakers, the situations all of you have faced. A lot of it, of course, if I just try to summarize it, is basically from the socioeconomic situations we have evolved from, the generations and eras we have come through, etc. And obviously, our cultural backgrounds, which have played a very important role through which a lot of women have found a way into a boardroom, or a lot of women have found places to be on better forums. And yet, yes, they have been, I would say, only outnumbered, but not outgunned. And yes, a woman, I see, I will just say something very interesting about one of my past corporate journeys, where I was working with one of the largest, I set up the largest return center of Flipkart in Pan East. And I had a team of 300 plus. And of course, the fulfillment center had 11,000 plus, Mother Hub at 20,000. And lot of these team members were ladies, young ladies, very talented, very high skilled. I would say could have been more well rewarded in many ways. And they would travel very far. And I'm telling you, this is about Bengal. And I mean, this is a shout out to Tata Trusts to look into the potential in the hearts of the Bengali girls and the boys over here. We have had young ladies who are doing data entry operation, fulfilling 400, 700 IPP processes over here, who are master's level and who are working for a very basic salary. Of course, that whatever is the market standard that is there, and they're traveling very far, they're going very far. But no matter whatever the stress has been, or I might have been, knowingly, unknowingly, sometimes imposing boss or cascading down thoughts to them, etc., to be aligned. But they always would leave the workplace. They're on, they work, listen. And then they would, go and out of the, during the lunchtime or the dinner time, they would come in and they would be smiling, and then they would be leaving and they would be smiling, they would be singing. And I mean, sometimes I would be amused, like, what's going on? We had such a tough day today, but here I am. This is about the shifting flawlessly, seamlessly into the different roles and different scenarios in life. And won't take much more time. I don't want to be carried away. Over to you, Dr. Smriti Sharma. Please tell us about yourself, your journey, your organization, and yes, please do.
Thank you so much, Sumit, and thank you to all the speakers for sharing their insightful story. Wishing you all a very happy Women's Day. About myself, I'll start firstly by thanking you, Sumit, for the opportunity to share my thoughts with such eminent speakers and panelists. Briefly, I'm Dr. Smriti Sharma. I have a doctorate in nutrition with extensive experience in designing and implementing public health nutrition programs. So in that one line, that's how I would like to describe myself. More precisely, I look after the maternal and child nutrition sector at the trusts. My journey of working with vulnerable women who are in geographic and socio-economic inequalities in those sectors, in those areas, has made me absorb the reality of how privileged I am. Seeing myself in context of the length and breadth of our country, those figures, those data, with the large population lacking basic access to services we use every single day, we take it for granted. And more so, seeing those women behind the numbers, it dawned on me how privileged I am. Right from being allowed to born as a girl child, to be educated and pursue higher studies even after marriage. And for this, I'm most grateful to my family, of course. I've struggled with work life, academia, while balancing my household chores. And we all know that this struggle in a woman's life is real. Whether it's urban woman, whether it's rural woman, the struggle is very real. Having seen my mom multitask with work and house, one part of me wanted to excel like her, and the other part of me was scared to what is to come, because I've seen that what is to come. I was fortunate enough, and just like the supportive men, like the ones on this panel, I was fortunate to, I am fortunate to have the support of my husband. But as even data backs it up, women share the maximum load of household chores. On the flip side, working in the public health sector to eradicate child malnutrition, what was an eye-opener for me was how even data suggests that the key to the nutritional status of a young child, if you want a healthy child, what are the most those factors which have a high odds ratio, what are those? And they just happen to be all women related. Amongst all the factors which have a role in child nutrition, be it mother's height, be it mother's weight, be it mother's education, everything directly expresses itself onto the child's health status. This may sound as basic and given for most of us, but we are nothing but very privileged. That the top three, that my height, my weight, my education, will impact how my future generation will look like. And we have it all given, all served on platter to us. So we are very privileged. No wonder the saying, you educate a woman, you educate a generation to come. And the advantages can be seen far and beyond on choice of food in child's plate, cognitive development of children when they grow up, and growth and the ultimate earning potential, which bind all together itself to women's health and education. So Akram, in your starting off note, you said here is the data which wholeheartedly supports you, that you educate a woman, and the generation to come shall be educated. Just wanted to share another on the other note, which like Madhumita ji had also shared, that being a feminist does not mean that we have to hate men. And as part of the group where I'm a member of a community of practice, it focuses on how to engage men and in child nutrition and nurturing care, because their contribution also goes far and beyond than just reducing the stress of women of handling the two jobs, a job at the home and the job at the work. The child growth, their brain development, reduction in domestic violence, child abuse, child malnutrition are just very few, some of the advantages of engaging men in childcare. And I must say, times are changing, but slowly, but yes, they are changing. To me, this has been the most fascinating and insightful journey to be the woman for another woman at home, at work, and in the rural sector on field. Thank you.
Yes. Should I start? Sumit, you are on mute. Still on mute.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Smriti. That was very enlightening. I would like to, at the end of this seminar, when we conclude for our discussion, I would like to come with some questions from Madhumita ji's end, because she has been in the nutritional sector and she has played a lot of other roles in shaping the strategy and policies for a lot of women's health products in the past. Over to you, Ms. Soumya ji. Mrs. Soumya ji, from your end of the story, please share with us your experiences.
Sure, Smith. Thank you so much. And I'm really grateful that I'm sharing this stage with a lot of eminent speakers. And I'm sure, my story is nothing different to them. It is the same thing. And I know from heart to heart, we all are feeling same. And going back to the journey is something very special for us, because knowing each other, knowing each other in the same manner helps us to grow better. And that is why I think this opportunity which Chamber of Commerce of Slovakia and the Policy Times have given to us is not just limited to us, but it is helping other women also, maybe to relate, maybe to learn and grow. This is really, really, good thing which you guys are doing. And I really appreciate on such short notice we're here and discussing such, personal as well as professional things. So I would say that I have been very lucky since my childhood. I have been born and brought up in a family where I never realized a single difference between a girl and a boy. However, this unconsciously was there when I grew up. Then I realized, oh, that was a difference, not because my family was making, but the society was making. But I, because of my mother's efforts, her conscious practices, that I and my sister should not feel any difference, has kept us away from those unfortunate things which I think many of girls are facing since childhood. But until marriage also, I never realized, and I have been very vocal also at times. So I never, and just because our childhood, mine, my sister's childhood had been like this, we were vocal, we were the decision makers at house also. So that never made me realize also that I'm even vocal, because that was my voice, which everybody should listen to. That's what I have been born and brought up. So that was very normal to me. But the moment I become mother, that was a very changing phase for me. And till that time, I would say that I was not even very serious about my profession, my job, because I was very carefree by that time. But the moment I became mother, a sense of huge responsibility came to my mind, and that make me more responsible. That make me more patient, and even taking things very seriously. I started doing that. even my job was very important for me that time, because it was a conscious phase where a lot of mothers leave their profession because of becoming mother. And I was into that phase that I should not do that, and I have to become more cautious, more serious towards my career. And that made me more resilient. A lot of empathy was there because of a small child, taking care of the kid. A lot of things were happening. And when I joined back my office after 6 months, I was not welcomed as same. That was the biggest setback to me. And then the whole good things which I have been facing since my childhood, about this equality, the sense which I had in my mind, that all lost somewhere. And I have been I was like a shadow working. Earlier I was working as a full complete FT, talking to clients, taking care. But the moment I became mother, I came back to office, nobody was willing to take me into their team. That was one setback, and that made me realize that how difficult it is for every woman to prove themselves. Then there was a time I had to prove myself that no, I am not less capable now. And since then I have to prove every time, and fortunately I proved it. And I grabbed the position of a leader in just next 3 months. But still, at moments I have to prove myself. And I think this became just like it was normal to me, that I was vocal, I have been heard, and I have been treated equally earlier. This also becomes normal to me, that I have to prove myself every time. And that is how this real struggle become started. And a lot of time I even because of this consciousness that I should not lose my career or profession because of becoming a mother, or more of a personal responsibilities, I even started giving more to my career and my profession. And that's what every woman is doing. Because of proving herself, they are giving little extra, they have to give a little extra. And that's what I started doing. But in return, I always had to go through to that moment, that she's a mother and she has more responsibility towards house. That's what I have always got in return. No doubt I was growing in the organization, no doubt I was getting whatever material things were there as equal to as my male counterparts. But then that thought at the back of my every manager and every colleague was there, that she's a mother, she has first responsibility for her child rather than office. That was there, that was still there. And I'll say that this is one of the real struggle which every woman is facing. But it is really not wise to think that, because I felt that change of being better responsible and better resilient. A lot of things for which today men are taking training for. These trainings we are getting naturally. We are getting on job training without even taking the trainings, for which a lot of corporates are spending a lot. So they are not, I'll say, not wise enough to realize that they are getting such professionals with these trainings inbuilt. And this is a really poor thought. And I would really want everyone to realize that, first of all, it is very important to realize our own self, that after becoming mothers or after even marriage, we are loaded with a lot of responsibilities. But that is not our weakness, that is rather our strengths. And we need to first realize that. And then maybe then other people will also realize at some point of time. However, after watching and after experiencing a lot of things in my corporate career during my job, I thought I take a very big decision of starting my own venture. And that has a very I got very much support from my family members, my husband, my father, even my brother invested in my business. So this shows that even men who are around trusts us. And they have even, I mean, he has even trusted me this much, that my husband and my brother has invested in the business a lot. So this kind of confidence is very much necessary for every girl. Not support, but you just show some confidence that, with a lot of talents or whatever we have learned in our journey is going to give good fruits, rather than, these responsibilities are not just weakness for us. So that's what I want to focus, that the other way around, people are thinking that these are weaknesses, this should be the strength. That is how I would like to, crisp it all. We have already spent a lot of time, so I'll not take much. This is the thought of the whole journey of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smriti Mrs. Smriti. That was very insightful, and that was really, I felt that it was one of the most soulful set of words on this panel. With all due respect to the rest of us speakers, you spoke in your heart, and that is what I was always looking for, and I always look for in most of our events. I would like to look for now a closing set of remarks, and I would like to invite Dr. Smriti Sharma for some of her views, any questions, thoughts, and any remarks from your end, and any revert from the rest of the panel, and then I'll move to the rest of the panel, and then we will close the session. Open to you, Dr. Smriti.
Thank you, Sumit, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Soumya, for sharing your insights. I think that's one area I'm yet to experience, motherhood, and that again, just as like my mom, seeing her excel in career and as well as taking care of the house, send jitters down my spine. This is one sector I'm still yet to face. Having said that, I wish to thank everyone for sharing their insights. And just as I was listening to her, another thought crossed my mind. Maybe one day our country will also become like Norwegian countries, which is the most gender neutral country in terms of how men play their part in household. And not only that has an impact overall for the generations to come, and but it's overall the government which changed. And one point which I thought which is very interesting and I wanted to share with everyone was the only thing which made those countries gender neutral, of course, over a period of years of engaging men, was they changed the policies of maternity leave. They made it, they made 50% for paternal leave and 50% for maternal leave, and mandatory that men will also have to avail those leaves. So all that, Soumya, I just wanted to say that all that you shared and others shared after giving birth is coming down in such gender neutral countries, and we can only hope and aspire that so that today we don't have to lead projects on engaging men in households, and it becomes a reality someday. So yeah, closing on that, I hand it back to you, Sumit.
Thank you, ma'am. And over to the rest of our panel, please share your thoughts about each other's views, journeys. There's a lot of resonance. There's a lot of diversity that has come from industry-specific, era-specific on this panel. And it's been very interesting. And it has turned out in terms of content and the theme and the soul, it has turned out exactly, very much exactly bang on content and thought and soul the way I was wishing it to be, and I'm very grateful to the speakers to take out the time. Shahana ji, could you please share your thoughts and remarks?
Sure, Sumit, we've had a lot of conversation around motherhood today. Even Akram ji, when he started, and then Rakesh ji, we spoke about motherhood and the power of, nurturing the next generation. I would like to speak about that. I am very fortunate that my mother-in-law, everybody, all women in my family are very strong, opinionated and willful women, strong women. At the same time, they were also somehow caged by the conditioning that they had growing up. I've had a very checkered career path. Before my daughter was born, I worked in probably 7 or 8 industries. I wasn't sure what really I wanted to, do with my life. I was experimenting a lot with different options. When I became a mother, that is when I actually realized that I need to start valuing myself. I wanted the best for my daughter. And then I realized, am I really giving myself the same kind of respect as an individual? So when my daughter was born, that was really a life-changing thing for me beyond the obvious. Because I started looking at myself also as an individual to be valued and cherished and respected. I've always been very, self-respecting, of course, but the respect, beyond the respect, the value that you really have for yourself, that is something I learned when I became a mother. So if my daughter deserves the best, so do I. And I'll just give you one example. I had written a very short story for The Hindu. It was about a young Muslim girl in a Bengali village, and she was talking about menstruation. And when I wrote that, my mother was aghast. She was like, "What are you writing nowadays? You're not supposed to be talking about such things." And she said, "अगर कुछ अच्छा नहीं है तो कुछ फिर मत लिखो. अगर कुछ अच्छा लिखने के लिए नहीं है, so don't talk about such things." And then she received a message from one of her friends who said that you have a golden womb, that you gave birth to a daughter who's giving voice to such things that need to be spoken. And then my mother had a change of heart and she wrote to me, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." So I guess it just takes small things, small steps on our part to really make a difference. And as I have mentioned, I am the lead jury for Agent of Change for She Inspires Awards 2022. It's based in the UK. And one of the things we decided, this is the 8th year of the awards, and we decided this year that we have to open the nominations for self-nominations. It's not just somebody who will nominate you. You should also be brave enough to nominate yourself if you think you're worth it. This is one of the small things that we have done this year. And I truly believe that we have to, as women, empower and respect other women. And the whole culture of Saas Bahu dramas, even though as a creative writer also we talk about human condition, we have to really represent and document what's going on around us. But at the same time, we need to be very mindful about the kind of popular culture that we are consuming. And it does have a big impact on, at least as far as I see, even in urban centers, the culture of gossiping and, backbiting. And I have so much to say about this. We don't have time today, but as women, we really need to support other women, and we need to be the ones who straighten the crowns of other queens. That's all I have to say. Thank
That
you.
was fantastic. That was a fantastic view, and how strong and vocal you have been. I would like to add some of my thoughts. They might sound a bit brutish, and my humblest apologies in advance. There has been a kind of psychological programming, and it's almost like a whirlpool kind of a scenario of ladies, women. And of course, when the ladies and women are being done, of course, the men are being also inversely or directly proportionately being conditioned and programmed to the muscle memory level, to the instinct level, about what their behavior of a lady's behavior should be in a certain society, in certain situations, despite whatever the challenges, and how men can go on and be brazen despite this thing having a lack of education or lack of programming about what is sensitivity or what is at least being humane, and etc. And that. And I don't think that is really on a personal note, because I've traveled the country a lot. Other than Jammu and Kashmir and some Northeast, I've traveled the entire length and breadth. And I've met people, I've got friends who have gone abroad, who have come back everywhere across cross-cultural friends, cross-border friendships, professional friendships, ladies who have been in a diversity. I don't think it's a really a cultural thing. A lot of people might say that in this culture it's like that, in that culture it's like that. It's not really. It's just the human soul. In any culture there might be, or any religion or anybody, there might be great men and great women, or there might be people who have unfortunately some toxicity in themselves, which they're cascading to other people. There's one story in which Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he talks about evolving as a soul and evolving as a human being. And over there, he gives a simple example of an ink pot, a glass ink pot, which is totally dark. If you drop in one more drop of water over there in that, then that drop of water will not make a difference. But gradually, as you drop in more drops of water, the water will become clearer. And one day, the water will become absolutely pristine clear. So it's now our responsibility, not just through this forum, but in a regular acts in life, to set the programming right, or to reprogram. Let's do the factory reset today onwards. Let's detoxify the system. Let's detoxify ourselves first. That would even include me. I might have some I might be unaware of some of my behavior towards people. My next request to Amrita ji and Soumya ji to share the remarks. And Madhumita ji, please do the closing of this session. Post them. Amrita ji, please go ahead.
Thanks, Sumit, and thanks to all the other speakers. I think it's been very insightful, sometimes very inspiring as well, listening to a lot of different thoughts, but also the same. Somewhere, I think the thread was all the same. As closing thoughts, I think I would want to re-emphasize actually exactly what Sahana ji said. The fact about taking small steps, I think it makes a big difference. I'll give you an example. I was a young lawyer when I just about graduated from law school, and I was finding my feet in the profession. And I was sent to, to another city to basically finish some work and come back. And I was in a flight. The flight got delayed. Usually we take the last flight out, which is usually very late in the night, because you want to finish as much as possible during the day, right? And today it's a norm for me. It's something that I'm very comfortable with, and I won't even think twice about it. But back then when I was just out of law school and I had to do this, there was this thing in my mind as to how will I get back home, so there's obviously you take a taxi and everything, but there's a little bit of fear when you do something the first time, right? So landed to my spectacular luck, the last flight was delayed. So I sort of came back to my city somewhere around 2 a.m. or something like that. And, I did the usual protocol of walking myself to the stand where you have to book your taxi and everything. And I kept wondering, what am I going to do if something happens on the way? What about safety? What am I, I'm a lawyer, so I think about these things. And more importantly, I'm a woman, so I think about these things. It's always running in the back of my mind. And then suddenly, I think two people or somebody behind me just sort of tapped on my back. And I said yes, and it was another woman, okay? And she asked me, are you traveling alone? Because I could see the trepidation on your face. I said yes. And she said, do you mind if she asked me where I'm going. So I said, I'm headed towards, a certain destination. And she said, that's spectacular, because I'm also headed somewhere around the same area. Can we sort of split a ride, right? And I said, yeah, that works really well. So the point I'm trying to make is, when you take the first step, sometimes when you have a little courage and you push yourself, things just happen. Sometimes it's just sheer luck that you really find your way. And the more important thing, both of us are wondering if the taxi driver will be okay with it, because, there are two different taxi drivers. Now we're saying you've already paid up for something, and we're saying one person has to drop two people. It's not like today's Ola and Uber where you can add trips to your trip, right? Then they would give you like a receipt saying that this is the place you need to go. And the taxi driver wholeheartedly agreed, And I have a very pleasant memory from that day, and it was the beginning of something for me. It was the beginning of where I grew to be confident about these things, about travel. And of course, I love traveling, and I think traveling generally sort of expands your horizon and your thought process, because you meet so many different people from different backgrounds. But I would emphasize that take that small step, even if at the beginning it seems very daunting. Things just have a way of working themselves out. Like Martin Luther King once said, things will just work themselves out. In the end. But it's important to take that small step in the beginning. And I also want to sort of, as closing remarks, emphasize on two other points. I think something that everybody has, all the women on this panel have sort of emphasized, that raising one gender doesn't mean you need to put down another gender. I cannot re-emphasize that more. It definitely should not take that turn. Just because you want to sort of raise yourself or uplift yourself or empower yourself, you don't have to do it by necessarily putting anyone else down. You don't need to take that path. I think that's one thing I say. And the other thing is, of course, I personally think that a good education and very early emphasis on having financial freedom will help change a lot of things for women in particular. And I really wish that people take that very seriously. I mean, from a very young age, and sort of emphasize on those things. I mean, it makes life, in my opinion, very, very sort of a little less complicated going forward. Let me just put it that way. I had nothing else to add. Thanks everyone. And over to you, Soumya.
Soumya-ji,
Thank you.
please
Thank you. Thanks, Amrita, for sharing this story with us. And I would like to conclude in a sense that enough training has been done to women. Now is the time to train our men, that in terms of accepting women in better positions, in leaderships roles. And in simple language or in Hindi, I would like to express this better as हमने लड़कियों को जीन्स तो पहनना सिखा दिया, बट लड़कों को उसको एक्सेप्ट करना नहीं सिखाया. So now is the time to make them also help. I'll not say that it's totally their fault, but it's had been there into the system, so grounded that they are bound to think that way. So that chain needs to be broken, and the best way is to set examples, to create role models. So I would really request to every man of house that they should form some good example in front of their sons, that they to accept women in better positions and at leadership roles. So that's what I request as to everybody. And even women need to help their son to understand this concept, that now since women are into the different roles, not just in one role, they should respect that and learn to accept that. This is one thing. And second thing, just as Amrita said, it's important to be financially free. I also think that emotionally also women need to be more free or independent, because when an emotional burden is there, then what productivity a woman can give is not coming as a 100%. And if a woman is tied up with the household chores and a lot of emotional pressures from house, she's not able to give what actually she can give. And I would say, being an economic student, I would say that is directly impacting the GDP of country, because if somebody is not giving 100% productivity, then the GDP of the country is impacting. And now is the time to realize that loss, and we can by our own efforts we can fulfill that. Thank you.
Thank you, Soumya-ji. I will throw open the floor to Madhumita-ji for her closing remarks, her views. And I would like to bring this session to a close with my note of thanks. Madhumita-ji, please go ahead. You're on mute. You're on mute.
What a beautiful session with Shahana, Dr. Smriti, Amrita, Soumya, and Shalini. It was really, really enlightening. And I think every leader here is pushing that cart, which I've been talking about, a little inch or maybe a little more to arrive at something which will be more comfortable for the next generation. It's nice to know about Amrita's story. She comes from a more matriarchal society, and those little thing that little incidents that she spoke about, the night incidents, I've also faced it, Amrita. I've been in sales and marketing, and I'm almost 15 to 20 days in the market. So I think initially and I could immediately relate to it. Or Dr. Smriti speaking about the Norwegian thing, which is a very small effort of giving extended leave to the father also, but those are actually towards gender diversity. Or Shana's story of unschooling her kid, which is so much of I don't know. I mean, hats off to you, Zahana. I wouldn't be able to do it. It's very bold, and I think it's very liberating for the child, because I know how much pressure I put on my child to excel. But let me tell you, one of my friend's kid is done homeschooling, and she went to MIT for her studies. Her entire passion was computers. So as she grew up and she was around 13 or 14, she took up computer sciences as a special coaching from somewhere, and she excelled so much in the Olympiad that MIT gave an invitation themselves. So I think that is the passion that we need to develop. Or Soumya, I can, I'm a mother of two, so I know that every time you go back from your pregnancy or you do anything, this is on the back of the mind, ye kar payegi ki nahi kar payegi. Will she start going to tour? Acha, if you say, okay, I'll go 2 days later, I know that my boss would say, I understand, small kid and all of that. 2 days later could be because of a ticket, because you've not got the right hotel, or maybe the salesperson there himself is busy and not giving you the date, but they wouldn't think that way. They would think. So every story that was spoken here, I think I could relate to it quite a lot. Thank you so much for being on this forum and sharing all this thing. And let's, as leader, keep pushing the cart for the next generation. Thank you so much, and good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you for extending your time and your schedule for this forum, for this event. And I'm very grateful to all our speakers who have been on this, the people, the Policy Times, Rakesh ji, Madhumita ji, Shahana ji, Soumya ji, Amrita ji, some other people, Mr. Rohit, who's the Vice President of Communications from the Chamber, who has assisted me in the last week to put some of the back end of this event together very silently, even though he's in a different time zone and I was under some other work-related challenges, and he helped me piece towards that. I'm very grateful to you, and I really pray and I really wish that all of you excel and all of you have absolute abundance in your life, and that may that never stop, and all absolute blockages or whatever that may be eliminated from your lives. I'm very grateful to all of you for taking out your time. Thank you so much. And I would like to begin this session to a close. Team Policy Times, let me know when the